Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design TV tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the church media designer. Well, I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and with me, as always, is the three wise men in Jesus. They're back from their Olympic debut. Yes, you have it right. It's Dwight Schrute, Little Whitey, Colonel Sanders, and of course, Jesus Christ, the Son of the Lord Most High. Well, we're back in the studio this week from the Echo Conference in Dallas, and last week you saw footage live from the conference and interviews with all sorts of different people, and you can look forward to more interviews with media producers and vendors in the upcoming weeks to find out what they can do for us in the church and how we can utilize their resources, so look forward to that. As well as this week, we're going to start a series on 3D text, and we're going to be doing 3D text in a variety of programs, so one of these programs will work for you. So if the three wise men in Jesus are ready, let's get into it. Well, like I said before, I'm back from the Echo Conference, and it was an awesome experience. It was my first time out in public with the chance to meet some of you guys who actually watched the show, which was a little weird because I'm like, okay, so people might know who I am now, and people might recognize me, which is totally weird because usually it's like, hey, I'm walking into a conference and nobody knows who I am and I'm just here to learn, and now it's like, hey, you got questions for me? Great, and that kind of stuff. But it was a really cool experience. I had a lot of fun doing my breakout. There's some really cool stuff, a lot of great question and answer time during that, and I actually have footage of that might turn into an episode, might turn into a free download training thing that you can use later. So we'll see how the audio and all of that turned out for that. But you can maybe hope that will come in the future. And if you want it, send me an email and we'll get it to you. So, but beyond that, I just wanted to kind of wrap up my final thoughts about what I thought about the conference. And one of the things that I heard from a lot of different people that was my experience there was the fact that this was the first conference I went to that everyone spoke the same language. Now, it's not really the first conference. I mean, you go to any Christian conference and everyone's speaking the gospel of Jesus Christ. They're speaking that language. But this was the first time I went to a conference where everybody was speaking church media. They were specifically all media people. Some people were pastors, but everyone had this tilt towards church media. So it was really cool to talk to people who were more interested in seeing what kind of camera I used than knowing about the show, which if that was you, totally cool. I'm glad that you like my Panasonic camera because it's my baby and you're never going to get your hands on it. Because I just love that thing. But that's the kind of stuff that went on. We had great conversations about all these things that a lot of times you're sitting in your office and you're like, wow, this is awesome. But no one else in my office really is going to care about it because they could care less about these cool things that I like because they don't think they're cool. So it was really cool being in that kind of atmosphere. One of the interesting things was to see some of the trends in the church. One thing that I noticed is the conference was, and this isn't really a criticism, but just kind of an observation, is that the conference was set up half teach you how to use media and half teach you about why you should use media and the theology around it. And I felt like, by and large, the people, the half that was the theology and the why, everyone was pretty much on the same page of, which is really different than 2 or 3 years ago where everyone wasn't on the same page. So it's really interesting to see how most people are coming to these kind of events or watching the show, not so much to hear me talk about the theology of why we should use media, but to learn the tools or learn some of the inspirational places to find media and how to use media in an actual service. So it's just interesting kind of noticing some of those things. If you disagree or agree, please stay in conversation on the website or the million other ways that you can find me. But that was one huge thing. The other thing was the guys did a great job putting on a conference that was so enjoyable. If you saw that interview with Rob at the beginning of last week's episode, he even said we wanted to put on a conference that we would enjoy. We like food, so food was a big part of our preparation, and we wanted to eat food that we liked, so we bought food that we liked. And it was awesome. I mean, there was bins of pop all over the place and chips, and I never was hungry one bit. And I actually was on a super limited budget, and so I was like, oh man, I hope food isn't expensive and I can go cheap at McDonald's. And I ended up not spending any money on food the entire time I was there, which was such a cool blessing that those guys passed down, as well as like some other stuff. It was really cool meeting some of you guys and what a blessing you were to me. I mean, I was a one-man crew. Adam's back this week, but I was down there by myself. And so I was doing interviews, and that's why sometimes like last week, you saw me walk off camera basically during an interview, and why people were walking through our shop, because I was by myself. So all that to say, it was really cool how helpful you guys were, and how I saw so many people reaching out and wanting to help each other. And that's what it's all about. It's all about us being a resource to the church. So I would encourage you guys to check out Echo next year. Check out, I know Willow does the arts conference in, I think, June. And there's some other conferences that go on that are more of this style. But pay attention to the dates, and hopefully the guys from Echo are going to do this again next year. They haven't said yes or no on it, but hopefully they'll do it. So those are kind of my final thoughts on Echo. Well, this week we're going to be starting a series on 3D text, and this is a series I've been wanting to do because I know a lot of times I look at commercials or a lot of different things, and I'm like, dude, that text looks awesome because, well, it's in 3D. And, you know, it'd be really hard for me to get up here and teach you how to do like crazy high-end 3D modeling and that kind of stuff. But to show you how to do 3D text is a lot easier, and it's something you'll utilize a lot in your design. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few different programs. One of them is Blender, which is a free open source 3D animation software, and we're going to do text in there. But today we're going to start and we're going to do 3D text inside Illustrator CS3. Now, I'll preface the whole show by saying that you have to have Illustrator CS3 or higher. It maybe is in CS2. I could be wrong. I don't really remember. But you at least have to have CS3 or higher, which CS4 isn't out. But in a year or so it might be, and you might be watching it when CS4 is out. Who knows? But we're going to show you how to make some 3D text, and then how to bring it inside Photoshop and do some coloring with it and some post-production with it. Now, I threw together this little graphic here of Get Out. We're not going to create the entire thing, although I will have this entire layered Photoshop document on the website for you guys for free. So, and maybe you can make your own text and throw it in there instead of the text that I'm using. But there's a little graphic for Get Out, which maybe is like a cool series on going to serve or something like that. So we're going to make that text, and then I'm going to show you how to color that inside Photoshop. So inside Illustrator, we'll just do a new print document, and size really doesn't matter a lot of times in Illustrator if you're just going to be bringing those elements over to Photoshop. So that's just a thing to keep in mind. So this is actually really simple. So we're going to just start, and we're going to grab our text tool, and we're going to grab, you know, Arial Black. How about that? Awesome. And we're just going to type in Get Out. And we'll scale this text up so we can see it a little better. And there we go. So we got our text. Now, if we would go up to Effects and go down to 3D and do Extrude and Bevel, we can hit the Preview button here, and you can preview our text and how it's being turned into 3D. Now, the problem we have right now is it's all black, and you really can't see it very well. So what we're going to do before that, we're going to hit cancel, and we're going to set up our coloring the way we want it. So I'm going to hit this default of white inside, black stroke. You can use it a lot of different ways, but we're going to use this for right now, and then we're going to actually probably change it in the future. But there's our coloring. So now we'll go back up to Effect, down to 3D, and then we're going to do Extrude and Bevel. And so we can do Preview, and that turns on our preview, and now we can kind of set up our look here. So I'm going to rotate this, what axis is this? Y-axis, X, Y, and Z. So we're going to set our Y-axis to 0, and we're going to set our X-axis, we're going to go up quite a bit. So it's kind of pointing up in the sky. And then down here we can do our extrude depth, and we're going to kick our extrude depth up quite a bit. So you look at that right now, and it looks pretty dumb. I mean, it's 3D, but you really can't tell it's 3D because there's no perspective to it. It's not, there's no like camera distortion, lens distortion, that kind of stuff. But if I start messing with my perspective, you can see how much cooler it looks. So now we actually have our text is going back to a vanishing point. So, maybe 85% there is looking pretty cool, and we can mess with our angle and maybe have it a little bit less or a little bit more. We'll go with, like 12 degrees. So that's looking kind of cool, but our coloring isn't exactly the way we want it. We want to have some good gradient to our text so that when we go to color inside Photoshop, we have some gradient to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Get Out, and if in the Appearance palette, I'm just going to double click on the 3D Extrude and Bevel. And again, we're going to have to click the Preview button to be able to see it. But down, or right above there, we're going to click on More Options. And now you can see down here at the bottom, we have our surface type, and we're going to do plastic shading. And now you can actually move our light around, and we can get different shading options. Now, one of the cool things is we can turn our ambient light down, and we're going to get more gray tones and that kind of stuff. But what I'm actually going to do first is we're going to actually change our color before we start coloring it. So we're going to hit OK for right now, and we're going to just flop these colors. And already you can see I'm getting some cool gradient, some cool shadows going on in the 3D-ness of that text, so you can actually tell the depth in it. So what we want to do is now go back in and mess with our coloring. So hit the preview button yet again. I wish it would default to be on after you've tried it on, but I can understand some of the reasoning why it's not. So that's actually looking pretty cool. We got some good depth going on there, and we can use that to do some coloring. Now our text is black, but we can mess around with that more inside Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this text now that I'm finished with it, and one of the amazing things, let's say last minute, your awesome lead pastor who doesn't take you into consideration says, hey, we need to change the series to GetIn because we don't feel like people care about the inner body enough, and we want to be self-focused because that's what Christ was all about. Not. So your series is now called GetIn. And so all you have to do is just type and change it, and it automatically live updates it, which is really cool, which actually I think is a limitation in some of the 3D software. Not positive, but I'm pretty sure. So it's pretty cool that you can change that right on the fly. So we got Get Out. So all we're going to do is copy this. So I just did Control-C. Now we're going to pop over to Photoshop. Sometimes it'll take a little while for the clipboard memory to catch up on Mac or PC just because of the amount of data it's transferring between the two. So we're going to do File, New, and we're going to do a new 1024. Well, let's just do 800 by 600, the lower church definition. 800 by 600 at 72 with a white background is fine for now. And then we're just going to do Paste. And we're going to do it as a smart object, which smart objects always can be scalable until you make them not smart objects. So if you bring in a vector file, you can scale it up or down and you never lose quality. Every time you transform it, it goes back to the original vector file to transform from. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scale this up to 200% and on both axes. And that's actually a little bit big. How about we do 150%? Whoops, that's my position. How about we do 150%? So I've done my scaling to 150%, and you noticed I've typed it in, and that's going to become really key in the future when we bring in the next file. So what I can do now is I can, move this wherever I want, but I can color this. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a layer style, and we're going to do a gradient overlay. Now we're going to pick a colored gradient overlay. It doesn't really matter what the colors are right now. We just need some color to work with. And maybe we'll just pull that stopper out, and we'll go over here and click on our swatches. We'll get like a blue color, and the purple look pretty cool. And now what we'll do is we'll mess with our blending mode. So I'm just going to click on the blending mode, and then I can do the down arrow, and I can watch how those blending modes change. Now the color burn actually looks pretty cool. It's a little little extreme, but we can kind of go through here. Hard light looks pretty nice, vivid light looks good, and so does linear light. So any of those, I think I'm going to stick with linear light, or vivid light. Well, we'll go with linear light. So we'll hit OK, and I like how the gradient's looking on there, but the get out looks kind of dumb and doesn't really look right. And that's where our scaling comes into importance. We're going to go back to Illustrator. We're going to click on here, and we're going to switch our colors back. And then we're going to relight this object so that our text is white. So we're going to move our light in here in our Properties panel, and we're going to kick up the ambient light until that text becomes pure white. So now it's white and black, which is totally fine. And then we're just going to copy that and bring that over into Photoshop. So now with this inside Photoshop, we can go up here, and this is where our scaling comes into importance. We can type in 150, and now it's the exact same size as our other one. So now we can take this copy, and if we want to, we can just throw this right into screen mode, and our white color turns right on top there because it allows, turns blacks into see-through and leaves our white solid. The other thing we could do if we wanted to, I'm just going to make a copy of this by dragging the layer to the new layer button. That makes a copy. I'm going to right click on this layer and do rasterize layer. Now with this layer rasterized, I'm going to turn it back to normal, and I'm going to go over here to my magic wand tool, which is underneath this pencil quick selection tool, which I never use. But I'm going to use the magic wand, and I am going to select all of the black, and I'm just going to shift click on the black until I have all of the different blacks here, and it looks like I have pretty much everything there, and I'm just going to hit delete. So now I've deleted all of the black, and so now all I have is this white get out text, which now I can take that and I can apply a layer style to that. So I could do a color overlay here, and I could mess around, and maybe I could find like a cool pink or like some sort of lighter blue that I like, or maybe some really dark color that makes it stand out cool. You can do a lot of things. Most of that looks pretty ugly, so we'll go with maybe this dark purple, or we'll just go right back to white and call it good. Or you could do a gradient overlay on it. So we'll turn our color overlay off, and we'll do a gradient overlay of, maybe blue to a yellow, and have it be disgusting looking like that. You can do whatever you want, and you can make it look hideous if you want to. We're just going to turn that off and leave it white. Yet again, I'll have that Photoshop file of the final version of that get out image on there. The one last thing that I'll mention that I did is I rasterized this bottom the gradient, the blue to purple gradient, and then I took the blur tool and I blurred out the bottom of it so it looks like it goes off into the distance even more, and you'll see how that in here it helps make it so that it seems like it fades off in the distance in this get out. So I use some different colors, but you can get some great different effects with this, so make sure to check out that tool if you want to get open educational and nonprofit versions of the software for a lot cheaper than what you would pay Adobe on their regular website. If you're using it in your church, head over to journeyed.com and you can get a nonprofit license of the Adobe Production Suite, which is what I would highly recommend for you guys to work with if you have the budget. If not, tune in next week for our Blender tutorial where we're going to talk about doing text inside Blender. So have some fun playing with some 3D text. Well, this week's inspiration comes in form of more Illustrator. Now, we can be inspired by the videos we watch and images we see, but we can also be inspired to actually use a program because we're learning it, so tutorials can inspire us. So today is iStockDiary.com and their Learn Adobe CS3 Illustrator in 30 days. Now, actually, it's only 22 days because they take 2 days off for each weekend, so they kind of want you to go through this day by day, but you probably could learn all of this stuff if you really wanted to absorb it and work through it. You could probably do this in a couple days and really grasp most of this stuff. But I would encourage you to go through it day by day and actually take some time and do what they're talking about. Some of the earlier days you might not spend as much time, but some of the later days it'll take you a little bit longer to really grasp a lot of the different things they're doing. They say each lesson will take around 20 minutes, and their point in this is that you can get a 30-day trial of the program, learn the entire program, and then figure out if you actually want to buy the program. So you can get a free trial of Illustrator from adobe.com, and you can find that there. So anyway, in this crash course that they're doing, they have a lot of great stuff. They actually have what is Illustrator, getting started, basic shapes, pen tool, pencil tool, brushes, compound pass, colors and strokes, layer groups, transparency and graphic styles, transforming, moving objects, basic text, blending shapes and colors, photorealism with gradient mesh, symbol tool, special effects, 3D extrude and bevel, the warp effect, live paint, clipping mask, opacity mask, saving painting, and designing a logo. Those are all the different things. So there's a lot of great different stuff in there. And I would really encourage you guys to check out the iStock Diary in their series so you guys can actually learn Illustrator. Well, welcome live to the Echo Conference, and I'm here at the Floodgate booth with, table or booth or whatever we want to call it, with the Floodgate guys. And so, guys, do you want to just tell our audience a little bit about what Floodgate does for churches?
We do media for churches, mini movies, short form video, motion backgrounds and stills, that type of thing.
Awesome. So how long has Floodgate been around, and how long have you guys been doing this kind of thing?
We've been around almost 3 years, and I think individually we've been involved in the creative fields, I don't know, for forever. I mean, this guy was a pastor for 17 years doing worship arts and creative arts, and Dave worked in a local retailer, nationwide retailer, and as a creative department and stuff. And then I worked in local churches doing creative arts.
Awesome. So you guys have a real foundation in the church to be able to bring that heart to the different churches when you're actually making your videos and that kind of stuff.
We hope so. That's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah.
That's a great goal to have, and it's awesome that you guys have that background. So what's new at Floodgate? What's coming up? Can you give any insight as new products or new things that are coming out from you guys?
We just finished our Floodgate Volume 3, and we're pretty excited about that. Ooh, look at that. It's dancing. Yes. Da, 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 da. There are 8 videos on there, and we only priced it at $50, so we're not a bad deal. And then we also just we recreated our website. And so if you want to check it out at www.floodgateproductions.com, there's some really great stuff, and what we're hoping is that it's the kind of stuff pastors want. And it's the kind of site pastors won't mind visiting every week.
If you guys can give maybe just a quick insight, when we were setting up, they were saying that you guys have the same camera as me. You got the Panasonic HVX 200. What other kind of pipeline are you guys working on? Macs or PCs? What are you guys using for your editing and that kind of stuff?
We're all on Macs, and we use the Final Cut Studio 2. We have the whole package deal, and I do have After Effects too, and we're just strictly Mac guys, and I don't think we'd have it any other way.
So. Nice, because it's easy. And then as far as the camera, you asked about we use an HVX 200, but recently we bought the Red Rock M2 system, which allows us to put a 35 millimeter and a 50 millimeter and an 85 millimeter lens on there, and it's like the black swipes that go through are beautiful.
Welcome to live production with no camera guy.
No, really. We are so excited about this. We bought 3 Zeiss prime lenses, and we bought the M2, and we can actually get that movie, what people would refer to as movie feel. And what that means is that you can go for that real shallow depth of field. It's really just nice. Yeah.
Well, that's all for us, unless you guys have something else you want to be plugging. Well,
check out the
and thanks, and the guys do watch the podcast, which is awesome to be meeting some people and fellow creative church people who are watching the show. So check out Floodgate at www.floodgateproductions.com, and I'll give you some more from Echo later. Well, we want to say thank you to our sponsor of WorshipHouseMedia.com, resources for the creative church. You can head over to WorshipHouseMedia.com and check out all of their great videos. But I would encourage you guys to check out the video Through the Storm by 4120 and by Matt and Matt over at 4120. And I got a chance to meet Matt at the conference. And actually, he's going to send over his specs on the rain machine that they made for the Through the Storm video. And we're actually going to show you guys how to make your own rain rig. So that should be a really cool tutorial that we'll be doing in the future sometime. So you guys can look forward to that. But also, if you want to save a little money on that video, you can use our promo code of CMDTV1 and get 25% off that purchase or any other purchase at WorshipHouseMedia.com. So check out all those great videos, and also if you want to get a RSS feed of all of the newly added material to Worship House, you can go over to the website and I have a link to that RSS feed. So check out WorshipHouseMedia.com. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of Church Media Design TV. It's so glad to be back inside the studio in front of the really hot lights that made me sick a few weeks ago. Not really, but hopefully I will never get sick again, and I'm going to drink lots of water while I'm taping to make sure that doesn't happen. But it's so glad to have you guys here, especially the new people who met me at Echo and are subscribed to the show. So we welcome all of the new viewers, and we hope that you enjoy the show, you learn from it, and that you stay in touch, and also that you tell others. So make sure all of you guys are telling others about the show so that we can spread the resource out, because I don't want to hold all these skills and ideas in my head. I want to share those with you guys, and I want you guys to be sharing these with everybody else. So make sure you're spreading all of these ideas out as far as you possibly can. And also stay in contact with me. You can email me, Brad at ChurchMediaDesign.tv. You also can leave a comment on the website. There's a comment section right under the video there. So head over to the website, leave a comment there. As well as if you want to find out behind the scenes info about when we're taping and what I'm doing, I've actually fallen into Twitter. It's a sad day, but I'm going to try to use it appropriately and not get sucked in like some of you people already are. So if you want to become a friend, or I don't even know what the term is because I've only been on there for like a week, because Steven convinced me to do it while I was at Echo. So it's all your fault, Steven. But if you guys are grateful for that, you can email Steven. I think it's Steven at stevensheets.com. You can email him and thank him for getting me on Twitter. But my Twitter address is twitter.com/CMDTV. So you can follow. We've been updating Twitter as we've been taping the show, so you guys could see what's going on behind the scenes of the show. And maybe Adam will put it on his iPhone so he can take pictures of what we're doing and Twitter that during the show as well. But anyway, you can stay in touch that way, become a friend on Facebook, and a million other things. But look forward to that Blender tutorial next week. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun to do some 3D in the show, and especially some free 3D. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the interviews. If you guys didn't like the interviews, please let me know. Or if you did like them, please let me know as well, because I want to know what kind of content you guys are looking for. So as for me and the three wise men and Jesus, we're saying, see you later. Bum bum. Yeah!